Now, Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. He's a member of the House Intelligence Committee, and as of now, we don't believe you were a target unless that's changed of this investigation.
Well, we don't know, Ali. Right now, I can't find an email from, and believe it or not, they let us know by email. I can't find an email in my spam box from Apple, but at this point, I don't know. But again, I know you asked, I'm speaking tongue in cheek, but we don't begin to know how wide this goes. We've asked the Justice for a complete list of who was subpoenaed, whose family members, whose children. We haven't gotten that list. Staff members,
okay. It doesn't sound right, but okay, I get it. But their families. There were some children on this list. What do we think this is?
Well, it almost makes you wonder whether you get into the realm of intimidation, right? Not only children, well, a minor child apparently was one of the phone records or text records that was demanded. I mean, it almost begins to feel like intimidation rather than what it almost most certainly was, which was an effort to go after the president's political opponents. And remember, the key part of this story, there's a lot of importance here, but the key part is that very shortly after this investigation began, prosecutors determined that there was nothing there. So, we need to understand why it was originated, and then we also need to understand why Attorney General Bill Barr restarted that investigation. And finally, we need to understand not just who was involved in this, but what else? What else? Remember, I think a lot about the intelligence community. Remember that two of the president's most loyal supporters, John Ratcliffe and Rick Grinnell, were the director of national intelligence for a lengthy period of time. What did they do inside the intelligence apparatus? And I'm not saying I know, I'm not making allegations, but why do we believe that this stops with the Department of Justice? What other federal entity was compromised to work Donald Trump's political interests?
What do we need to do? We've heard from Apple. We've heard from Microsoft now to say that they were also approached and there was a gag order on them. What do we have to do to make sure that our tech companies, which basically know more about us than we know about ourselves, are not subject to political whims of people in office? Is that a legislative matter? Is that a matter of investigating? What do we do about that?
Well, they're in a tough place, right? Because when the DOJ says you can't talk about this because national security is at stake, there is a threat that they might be prosecuted if they violate that order. But hopefully those tech companies have learned, and they are learning slowly with things like, taking Donald Trump off Facebook and Twitter. Hopefully they have learned that they can be complicit if they're not careful, if they don't reflect on what it is exactly that they're doing. They may be complicit in the destruction of our own democracy. So we have a responsibility as Congress to make it clear that things like the First Amendment, going after reporters, aren't going to fly. Because at the end of the day, the Department of Justice is funded by the United States Congress. So we have a say here, and we need to make sure that we use that say. But the tech companies themselves, they've got some navel gazing to do, some self-reflection to do right now, because they could easily, as I've demonstrated, be complicit in the destruction of our democracy.
There's a story on this in the New York Times that I want to read you a line from because it caught my attention. It said some cases had nothing to do with leaks about Mr. Trump and involved sensitive national security information, one of the people said. But Mr. Barr's overall view of leaks led some people in the department to eventually see the inquiries as politically motivated. This is interesting because this is stuff that you deal with as a member of the Intelligence Committee. We mere mortals don't know and can't divine what is a national security issue, what is an intelligence issue that is sensitive, and what is political snooping and possibly veering into intimidation, as you just said. How do we get to the bottom of that? Because obviously there are some things that our intelligence apparatus and our Department of Justice should be able to do in the national interest and in the interest of public safety. But this First Amendment thing's not a joke. This is really serious. This sends a chill, particularly through the journalistic community, that there have been reporters who have been snooped on as well.
Well, that's exactly right, Ali. And look, I think with reporters, because there is explicit First Amendment protection of the press, with reporters, I think it's an easier case. don't go after a reporter's record. That is not an investigative tool when you're looking at the breach of national security information. Now you can sort of come up with a case. Let's imagine that a member of Congress, I don't think this has ever happened before. Let's just imagine that a member of Congress decides to sell the American nuclear codes to Russia for $1 million, and we find $1 million under the bed. Okay. But this is not that. This is not that. Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, what do they have in common? They were probably the most vocal Democrats in opposition to Donald Trump. What do we know? That there was nothing there. So again, this is a million miles away from a legitimate prosecution, which is why it's important that every last fact, every last statement made, what was said to a grand jury needs to see the light of day so that we really understand the full contours of what happened here.
Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for